Chapter 1729. Fire Phoenix glanced at him and said to Fingzhou, "He said you're a pervert. I heard him bad-mouthing you just now." Upon hearing this, Hui Lang hurriedly waved his hands. No, I definitely didn't badmouth you. I was praising you. You have to believe me." Fengzhou glanced at him with a faint smile but did not say much. He only asked, "When did you guys arrive?" "A few days. We've been waiting for you here. I was wondering if you'd gone to the Luoyue kingdom." As he spoke, he glanced at the Phoenix guards behind him and asked curiously, "Ghost Doctor, how did their strength advance so quickly?" "They've been working hard for the past 6 months. It's not strange for them to have such strength," Fengzhou said with a smile. "I was shocked to see them have such strength in half a year. Besides their advancement, your strength seems to have increased too, right? Are you at the peak of the fairy realm?" Fengzhou smiled. "No, I'm at the peak of the fairy sage realm." "Ah. What? You're already at the peak of the fairy sage realm? That's incredible. How did you do it? It's only been half a year. Even Master didn't expect you to have advanced to the peak of the fairy sage realm. He's still worried about you." As Hui Lang spoke, he looked at her in disbelief. Then, he said matter-of-factly, "But it makes sense. If you weren't at your level, how could you have killed the monarch of Qishui province so easily?" Fengzhou smiled and asked, "How many people did you bring with you?" Grey Wolf grinned and said, "I only brought 20 people, but each and every one of them is an expert that can fight against 10 people. They're right in front. Ghost Doctor, you can follow me to rest." "All right, lead the way." Fengzhou gestured. Thus, everyone followed Hui Lang into the small forest. When the men in black who were already waiting there saw them walk over, they immediately went up and bowed. "Greetings, Ghost Doctor." Fengzhou nodded and said, "You don't have to be so courteous." He then turned around and instructed the Phoenix guards, "Take a rest." Luo Yu stepped forward and said, "Master, I'll bring some people to hunt some game back." "Go. Be careful," Fengzhou warned. Luo Yu smiled and replied, "Yes." Thus, he turned around and left with a group of people. After they sat down, Hui Lang asked curiously, "Ghost Doctor, how did you kill the monarch of Qishui province? There are many experts in the Qishui imperial palace. Did you not attract their attention? How did they manage to kill the monarch of Qishui province without making a sound? Could it be that those people were all asleep?" Thinking of this, he was suddenly startled, and a thought flashed through his mind. "Oh, right, the Ghost Doctor must have used some medicine." As expected, he heard her words. Fengzhou smiled and said, "I first asked the Fire Phoenix to put the medicine in the well water they drank. The medicine is colorless and tasteless, and takes effect slowly. Naturally, they did not notice. At night, we sneaked into the Imperial Palace and worked together. In less than 2 hours, we set fire to the Qishui Imperial Palace and hung a few corpses in front of the Imperial Palace to deter other countries." Hui Lang suddenly understood and said, "So that's how it is." Guan Shilin on the side smiled and said, "What else could it be? Did you think that we would directly kill our way in? If we did that, how many people would we lose?" Hee. Hui Lang smiled embarrassedly, "No, I definitely did not think that way." Chapter 1730. "Don't worry, Ghost Doctor. Master is fine." Hui Lang grinned and replied, "It's just that too many things have happened in the past 6 months, so much so that Master seems to be tense all the time. Sometimes, he's busy until midnight and doesn't even rest." Then, he added, "But Ghost Doctor, don't worry. Master hasn't had any other woman by his side in the past 6 months." Hearing this, Fengzhou couldn't help but laugh. "All right, don't say such nonsense." Then, she said to Guan Shilin, "After resting for a while, we'll act according to our original plan." "No problem." Guan Shilin said and walked towards the Phoenix guards who were resting at the back. Seeing this, Hui Lang didn't disturb her anymore. Instead, he sat not far away from her and watched her sit cross-legged to adjust her qi and close her eyes to rest. In the next 2 days, Hui Lang watched Guan Shilin leave with the Phoenix guards. He couldn't help but come to Fingzhou's side and ask, "Ghost Doctor, what are they going to do? Should we go and help?" "No need, just let them go." Fingzhou, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating, said without opening her eyes. "Then when are we going to attack the Dongyao Empire?" Hui Lang asked. He had seen her here for the past 2 days. Other than Guan Shilin and the others who made some movements, she had been sitting here without giving any orders. He didn't know when they were going to make a move. "Who told you that we're going to attack the Dongyao Empire?" Fengzhou glanced at him and asked jokingly. "Didn't you? Then what are we doing here? Ghost Doctor, what are you going to do next? At least give me a hint." He looked at her with a bitter face. He had been here with his people all this time, but he didn't know the next order. This feeling was really suffocating. "Wait. When the time comes, I'll naturally tell you." Fengzhou stood up and stretched. "Since we're free, let's move our muscles and bones." As soon as she finished speaking, she had already raised her fist to attack Hui Lang. Seeing this, Hui Lang quickly retreated. Seeing that she didn't use her spiritual power, he said, "All right then. I'll just be a sparring partner and practice with the Ghost Doctor." If she used her spiritual aura, he wouldn't be able to withstand a single move from her. However, if she didn't use her spiritual aura, then that was another matter. Furthermore, he might even be able to learn a move or two from her. Thinking of this, his interest was immediately piqued. He dodged and attacked at the same time. As the two of them exchanged blows in the forest, the surrounding black-clothed men's eyes involuntarily lit up. They all stared at the two's moves. They were more familiar with their leader's skills and were used to seeing their moves. However, the Ghost Doctor's moves were extremely rare. Now that they saw it, they could tell that there was a huge difference. Her attacks were sharp and aimed at the vital points. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't use any spiritual power, their heads wouldn't have been able to withstand a single attack from her. Seeing these attacks aimed at the vital points, they secretly noted them down. In the palace of Dongyao, the monarch of Dongyao narrowed his eyes and glared at the people below. "What did you say? You found traces of those people in the mountains behind the imperial palace?" "Yes. We didn't dare to act rashly and alert the enemy, so we specially came to report to the monarch," the black-clothed man said in a deep voice. Chapter 1731. The black-robed man was silent for a while, then said, "No, I didn't see the red-robed young man there, but there was a man with an extraordinary aura. He should be Fingzhou's sworn brother, Guan Shilin." "Guan Shilin? Humph." The Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom snorted coldly and ordered with his hands behind his back, "Elder Yen, bring some men with you and annihilate them in one fell swoop." Elder Yen was one of the 2 fairy realm experts under him. With him there, it would be easy for him to annihilate Guan Shilin and dozens of Phoenix guards. "Yes, sir." An old man walked out from the back. His gray robe was inconspicuous, but the aura he exuded was extraordinary. "As long as this matter is settled, I will reward you handsomely," the Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom said. "Thank you, Emperor. Just wait for me to bring the head of Guan Shilin to see you." With that, he cupped his hands and walked out. The Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom looked at the sky outside with his hands behind his back and snorted coldly, "Arrogant brat, you overestimate yourself. Let me use you to defeat Fingzhou's spirit." Perhaps it was because they thought that there were only dozens of people from an inferior country, so the Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom, Elder Yen, and even the guards of Dongyao Kingdom did not take them seriously. They were fugitives from an extinct country. Even if they had some cultivation, How outstanding could they be? If they were really outstanding, their Phoenix dynasty would not have been destroyed. Elder Yen and the others saw the annihilation of Guan Shilin and his men as a great merit. They would definitely punish them so that none of them could escape. Listen up, don't let any of them escape, he said to the people behind him. Yes. Everyone responded in a deep voice. They had heard that those people only had a few dozen people, but they had 100 people here. Just based on the number of people, they had the upper hand. Not to mention that their strength was stronger than those people from the inferior countries. If they wanted to kill those people, it would not be a problem at all. How could they let them escape? Split up and attack from both sides. Boss Yen waved his hand, indicating for them to move to the sides and surround the dozens of Phoenix guards in the back mountain. Thus, the 100 or so guards quickly spread out to the two sides. They restrained their auras and moved towards the two sides, preparing to surround them. At the same time, Guan Shilin, Du Fan, Luo Yu, and the other 8 captains of the Phoenix Guards had been waiting for a long time. They held their breaths and listened to the movements. A Phoenix Guard silently flew over to report. Reporting. There are about 100 of them, and they have split into 2 groups to flank us from both sides. The leader of the 2 groups is an old man in the fairy realm. He didn't get too close to us in order to avoid being discovered, so I couldn't see his face clearly. However, he should be one of the 2 fairy realm experts mentioned in the information. Very good, Guan Shilin said, then looked at Du Fan. Is everything ready? Don't worry. Everything is ready. As long as they come in, they won't be able to leave, Du Fan said confidently, fanning himself with the white jade fan in his hand. Hearing this, Guan Shilin looked at Luo Yu and the other 7 captains. Each of you take your small groups and lie in ambush in the formation. Once you see them enter the formation, kill them without mercy. Yes. Chapter 1732. Due to the formation, the back of the mountain was filled with a light smoke. This light smoke was not dense, but it seemed to block some of the vision. When the people of the Eastern Glory Empire stepped into the formation step by step without realizing it, the silent massacre had already begun. The Phoenix Guards held daggers in their hands and appeared out of nowhere in the formation. They covered the other party's mouth with one hand and slit his throat with the other hand holding the dagger. A life disappeared without a sound. The people walking at the back were decreasing one by one, but the people in front did not notice that something was wrong. They only realized that they seemed to be walking in circles in this fog. Did you notice that we seem to be walking in circles? We seem to have walked through this place just now, the leader of the guard said. Could it be that there's a formation here? Also, why do I feel that there's a bloody smell in here? Can't you smell it? The person at the back said. When he turned back to look, a Phoenix Guard suddenly jumped out and stabbed his chest with a dagger. Yes. There's an ambush. The person's breath was stuck in his throat and he could not swallow it. He stared unwillingly at the person who suddenly jumped out. After saying this, he fell down. There's an ambush. It was unknown who shouted, but the entire team instantly fell into chaos. They quickly gathered together and looked around vigilantly with their backs facing each other. Only then did they realize that their team originally had 50 people, but now, less than half of them were left. Damn it! Kill them! The leader could vaguely see the black mass of people scurrying out from the fog. He was startled and yelled. But who knew that as soon as his voice fell, arrows shot out from the surrounding area. Kill them! Don't leave a single one alive! This time, the Phoenix Guards shouted loudly. They did not rush out, but instead shot arrows at them. Countless arrows shot out like a rain of arrows toward the guards who were gathered together. Ah! Shrill cries sounded, startling the birds in the forest and causing them to flap their wings and fly away. It also shocked Elder Yen, who was not far away, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. Were they their people? Or were they Eastern Glory Empire's people? No, it should be the screams of Guan Shilin and the others. How could a few dozen people be a match for his 100 people? One had to know that there were not many powerhouses among these 100 people. However, although he comforted himself, the uneasiness in his heart still made him not dare to be careless. He walked inside, wanting to see for himself. In the formation, after shooting for a while, the arrows instantly stopped when the order was given. At this time, there were less than 3 of the 50 people left, and these 3 were nascent soul cultivators. Luo Yu, Fan Lin, and the other captains exchanged glances with Du Fan. Looking at the 3 people, Luo Yu ordered the Phoenix guards around them, everyone else, stand back and be on guard. Leave these 3 old things to us. Chapter 1733. Hiss. Ah. A scream was heard, and one person fell down. However, the battle was not over yet. The other Phoenix guards did not relax. They knew that the reason why their leader did not let them fight, but chose to fight personally was to minimize their casualties. After all, with their abilities, they could fight against someone at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm, but they were still too weak to fight against someone at the nascent soul realm. After half a year of training, Luo Yu and the rest's abilities had improved greatly. They were not afraid of fighting against nascent soul realm powerhouses anymore. Together with Du Fan, the 5 of them worked together, and the remaining 2 were quickly eliminated. However, even so, they still suffered some injuries. Although they were not serious, after the battle, their auras were slightly messed up. Retreat. With an order, the Phoenix guards quickly retreated and rushed to the other side to help. About half an hour after they left, Elder Yen arrived. Looking at the corpses on the ground, his face was gloomy. He clenched his fists so tightly that his veins could be seen. Phoenix guards. What a team of Phoenix guards. Just a few dozen of you dared to kill more than 100 of my people. I want to see if you can still stand up straight without fear when facing me, a fairy realm powerhouse. Humph. With a gloomy voice, he waved his hand and rose into the air. When he was in the air, he saw that the ground was filled with smoke, and his vision was not clear. He could only see everything clearly when he scanned the ground with his divine sense. When he scanned the other side with his divine sense, he saw that the people there were also fighting. Moreover, there were the sounds of ferocious beasts. He thought that they must have brought their contracted beasts over. Hence, he quickly rushed to the ground. Before he arrived, his pressure had already enveloped the area. Where is the boy named Guan? If you have the guts, come out and fight with me. The voice, which contained a strong pressure, spread clearly through the back of the mountain. Once the pressure of a fairy realm powerhouse enveloped the area, the auras of the people below became unstable. Ha 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 ha. Old man, your grandfather Guan has been waiting for you for a long time. In the smoke, there was no one, but laughter rang out. The deafening laughter contained a strong dark force aura, which was not inferior to Elder Yan's. Elder Yan's heart shook when he sensed the powerful profound energy aura. He widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at the boorish man who was standing in mid-air within the smoke. You're actually a martial god expert. Even in the 8 great empires, it was extremely rare for a profound practitioner to cultivate to the martial god realm. Moreover, this person was said to be from an inferior country, so how did he cultivate to the martial god realm? The shock and astonishment in his heart collided with each other at this moment. He only felt waves rising from the ground and violently beating against his heart. He, who had originally vowed that he would take the other party's head and present it to the monarch, could not help but have a trace of seriousness at this moment. A martial god expert. He had lived for so many years, but he had never fought with a martial god expert. This was because Xian martial artists cultivated slowly. If they wanted to cultivate to the martial god level, they would need to be old monsters who had lived for hundreds of years. However, the man called Guan Shilin seemed to be in his 20s. How could he not be shocked when he was already a middle-stage martial god at such a young age? At this moment, he felt a little hesitant and uncertain. Chapter 1734. Just as Elder Yen was shocked by Guan Shilin's strength and cultivation, Guan Shilin, who was high up in the air, waved the large blade in his hand. Along with a powerful dark force aura, he charged forward at a speed that was too fast for one to cover their ears. The sharp and cold large blade slashed through the air, bringing with it a swift and fierce aura. Wherever it passed, the wind blades were as terrifying as the howls of ghosts. In just a moment of distraction, Elder Yen saw the broadsword with a frightening murderous aura chopping towards him. Elder Yen abruptly came back to his senses and dodged the attack. At the same time, he flicked his sleeve, and a visible stream of spiritual energy flew out from his sleeve with a whoosh, like a cold crescent moon blade. Whoosh! The spiritual energy stream cut through the air and attacked Guan Shilin. Guan Shilin blocked it with his broadsword, and only a clang was heard. The air blade on the broadsword collided with the stream of spiritual energy and dispersed. The two exchanged blows, and it seemed that they were evenly matched. However, after a long battle, Elder Yan's spiritual energy had been consumed too much. Gradually, his aura became unstable, and the speed of his attacks slowed down inadvertently. Seeing this, Guan Shilin coldly snorted. Like a ferocious tiger, he pounced forward with an irresistible force. He waved his broadsword and shouted, "Old thing, I'm going to take your life today." The deafening sound was accompanied by a powerful force. Elder Yen only felt his eardrums vibrate, and the qi and blood in his body became unstable. A mouthful of blood welled up from his throat and was about to spit it out, but he forced it down. Seeing Guan Shilin swinging his broadsword at him and that there was no way to dodge, he took out his long sword, infused it with spiritual energy, and met the attack head-on. Clang! Hiss! The sword and the broadsword collided, and a clear clang was heard. Sparks and hissing sounds were heard from the friction. The Xian Qi and spiritual energy on the two of them fought against each other, forming a visible stream of air to protect their bodies. Kacha! When the sword and saber collided, there was a sudden cracking sound, as if the weapon was about to break. Hearing this sound, Elder Yan's heart shook, especially when he saw the thin crack on the long sword in his hand. His heart was even more shocked. Bang! After a cracking sound, just as Old Yan's mind was thrown into chaos, the long sword in his hand was broken, and the tip of the sword flew out with a whoosh. Bang! Without the obstruction of the long sword, the air current directly hit his body. With a bang, Elder Yen spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was ruthlessly sent flying and fell from the air. Ah! Boss Yen was shocked. The moment he fell, all he could think of was to escape. However, Guan Shilin did not give him a chance to escape. Instead, he chased after him with his saber and viciously slashed at his back. Swish! Bang! When the blade landed on Elder Yan's body, he thought that it would be enough to kill him. However, a bang was heard from his body, and a ray of light was reflected. It seemed that he had a life-saving spell on him. Guan Shilin took another look and saw that the back of Elder Yan's shirt was torn. There was not even a drop of blood on his back. Seeing this, Guan Shilin waved his saber again and quickly chased after him. You can't escape. Accept your death obediently. Chapter 1735. Swoosh! Ah! A sharp blade aura was emitted. Immediately after, scarlet blood splattered in the air. Senior Yen, who was fleeing in front, was cleaved into two by the large blade behind him. A mournful scream filled with unwillingness rang out, echoing in the air. Note that the corpse fell from the air, and the scream stopped abruptly. The surroundings seemed to have calmed down at this moment, and even the aura of spiritual energy and dark force in the air gradually disappeared. Guan Shilin leaped down from the air and arrived beside Elder Yan's corpse. He collected the Cosmos bag and space ring on Elder Yan's body, then turned to look at the Phoenix Guard and asked, "How did it go?" "Don't worry, we didn't leave a single survivor," Du Fan said. "Then let's proceed with the second step of the plan." Guan Shilin signaled and glanced at Luo Yu and the others. "Okay, we'll act immediately," Luo Yu and the others said. The 8 of them split into 2 groups and left with the Phoenix Guard and Tunyun to prepare for the second step of the plan. Guan Shilin and Du Fan looked at each other, then left the back of the mountain and headed for the palace. Outside the city, Fengzhou, who had stopped practicing with Hui Lang for a while, looked at the sky gradually darkening, and said to them, "Let's go. Didn't you want to stretch your muscles? Now's the time." Everyone's eyes lit up. Were they going to destroy the Eastern Glory Empire? However, there were many strong people in the Eastern Glory Empire. If they went in directly, would they? They didn't dare to ask. Their eyes fell on Hui Lang, hoping that their leader could ask what the ghost doctor's plan was. Seeing their gazes, Hui Lang hesitated and asked, "Ghost Doctor, are we going to kill our way into the palace?" "Why? Are you scared?" Fengzhou glanced at them with a faint smile. "How is that possible?" Hui Lang straightened his back, scared. Hui Lang, don't know how to spell the word scared." "Alright then, let's go. If you're late, you won't be of any use." As she spoke, she took a deep breath and headed toward the palace of Dongyao. Seeing this, Hui Lang waved his hand. "Follow the ghost doctor. We'll know when we get there." "Yes." Everyone responded and followed behind him. Dongyao Imperial Palace, what? In the main seat of the palace, the monarch of Dongyao Empire stood up abruptly. He widened his eyes in shock. "What did you say?" "Say it again." Reporting to the monarch, Elder Yen brought 100 people to the back of the mountain. All of them were killed. None of them survived. Even Elder Yen was also split in half. The black-clothed secret guard who was kneeling below said with a trembling voice. He had been ordered to observe the battle from a distance. When he saw that Elder Yen had been killed, he was shocked and immediately returned to report. Too strong. Those people were too strong. A mere few dozen people were actually able to kill all 100 of their experts. Moreover, even Elder Yen, who was at the flying immortal stage, was killed by that burly man. Every time he thought of the scene where Elder Yen was split in half, a chill ran up from the soles of his feet. He was so shocked that his heart trembled and his mind was in a mess. The monarch of Dongyao Empire stiffened. His face was full of disbelief. He stood there and looked at the black-clothed secret guard kneeling below. He asked, was it Fengzhou who killed them? Other than Fengzhou, who else had this ability? Chapter 1736. Guan Shilin. Fengzhou's sworn brother. The emperor of Dongyao country asked in shock, how could he kill Elder Yen, who is at the fairy realm? Did you watch carefully? Are there any experts secretly helping them? No, I saw that it was Guan Shilin who cut Elder Yen in half with his sword. There was no one else. Hearing this, the emperor of Dongyao country fell to the ground, his body trembling unnoticeably. Fengzhou, Guan Shilin, these Phoenix guards, were really capable. If that was the case, then it was too terrifying. Even if they asked for help from other countries now, it would be too far away to put out a nearby fire. Moreover, even if they asked for help, the other two empires would not come immediately. He took a deep breath, calmed his emotions, and said in a low voice, send someone to the major families in the imperial city. Ask their ancestors and masters to enter the palace to help. Yes. The secret guard in black responded and left quickly. However, since the fall of the Chishui Empire, the news had spread throughout the empires. Especially the major families in the imperial cities of the empires that cooperated with the Qishui Empire, they were prepared for it. Although they were not familiar with the ghost doctor Feng Zhou, they had heard many legends about her. Even if they felt that it might be exaggerated, the emperor of Qishui province, the crown prince, and the most favored third princess were killed. Their corpses were hung at the gate of the imperial palace. The Qishui imperial palace was on fire and burned for a day and a night. They were also vigilant. No matter how powerful Fengzhou was, the ancestors of the major families had ordered them not to participate in the matter between the imperial family and Fengzhou. As time passed, evening came. When the sky darkened, a dangerous aura shrouded the entire imperial palace. The major families in Huang City seemed to have sensed something, but none of them came out. Until the people sent by the emperor of Dongyao country knocked on the doors of the major families. Not long after they entered, they left again. Just like that, the news secretly spread among the major families, and the ancestors of the major families gathered together. I didn't expect Ghost Dr. Fengzhou to come. Or did they choose Eastern Glory Empire from the remaining 3 empires? According to the secret guards in the palace, a fairy realm expert by the emperor's side led 100 people to fight against a few dozen people, but he was killed just like that. Not a single person survived. Another ancestor said, frowning as he pondered, I really didn't expect this ghost Dr. Fengzhou to become so strong in just half a year. Hearing this, an ancestor next to him shook his head, no, I heard that ghost Dr. Fengzhou hasn't made a move yet. The one who killed Elder Yen was ghost Dr. Fengzhou's sworn brother, Guan Shilin. It seems like the monarch is not confident in dealing with Fengzhou. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent people to ask for our help. A white-bearded patriarch stroked his beard and said slowly. He was very curious about this ghost Dr. Fengzhou. What kind of woman was she? How could they force the monarch of such an empire into a corner and ask for help? This kind of thing, if not handled properly, it would bring disaster to the entire clan. Who would dare to help? That's right. Let the imperial family deal with the trouble they caused themselves. Another person shook his head and said. He knew in his heart that Eastern Glory Empire would be the next empire to be destroyed after Qishui Empire. Chapter 1737. Pfft. How could the forces in the upper reaches take the empire seriously? Moreover, it's too late to ask for help. It seems like Dong Yao is doomed this time. The few of them sighed and looked at each other without saying a word. In the imperial palace. The emperor of Dong Yao Kingdom stood in the main hall with his hands behind his back with a gloomy face. He listened to the report from the secret guard in black, and his face was so dark that charcoal could drip from it. Those old men were actually dragging their feet, and no one was willing to come forward to help. It seemed like they were afraid of what Fengzhou had done during this period of time. Since they were not willing to help, he could only rely on himself. Pass down the order. Gather all the guards in the imperial palace and defend the imperial palace. Prepare for battle. Since no one else could save him, he would gather all the forces in the imperial palace and prepare for battle. He didn't believe that he couldn't deal with a mere Fengzhou with the strength of Eastern Glory Nation. Yes. The secret guard in black responded and left quickly. Don't worry, Emperor. Since those families are not willing to help, we'll destroy the Xianyuan Empire after we've dealt with Fengzhou and his men. After we've strengthened our empire, we'll weaken the power of those families. An old man walked out from behind. He was the other fairy realm expert beside the emperor of Dongyao Kingdom. That's right. Those old men stood aside and did nothing today. They'll suffer in the future. The emperor of Dongyao Kingdom said in a gloomy voice. However, at this moment, a loud bang was heard, as if something had exploded. The entire imperial palace shook, and the emperor of Dongyao Kingdom was shocked. What's going on? He asked loudly. Just then, a guard rushed in from the outside. Emperor, the northern palace wall near the back of the mountain was blown up. Debris rolled and a big hole appeared in the ground. Guan Shilin rushed in with his men and a few contracted beasts. The situation is out of control. Fengzhou, the ghost doctor. Guan Shilin, the Phoenix Guards. What a good Phoenix Guard. He gritted his teeth in anger and said, "Come with me. I want them to die here." Yes. The Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom walked in front, followed by the grey-robed old man, many guards, and secret guards. Hundreds of people rushed toward the northern gate. Guan Shilin and Du Fan were not among the people who entered the northern gate. Only the 8 Phoenix Guards and their contracted beasts such as the Fire Phoenix rushed in and fought with the guards in the palace. For a moment, the sounds of swords and beasts' roars echoed in the air. However, just as the Emperor of Dongyao Empire was rushing to the north gate with his men, his palace was on fire. Guan Shilin and Du Fan had looted everything in the treasure vault of the Dongyao Empire's palace and set it ablaze. The fire spread everywhere and thick smoke rose to the sky. When the monarch of Dongyao Empire saw the fire and smoke, he was so angry that his body trembled. Damn that Fengzhou! How dare you destroy the imperial palace of Dongyao Empire? I will tear you into pieces. At this moment, Fengzhou, dressed in a dazzling red robe, led Hui Lang, Ling Hua, and Ling Shuang into the palace gate. Looking at the fire, Fengzhou smiled and said to the people behind him, "Let's do it." Yes. Everyone answered. Hui Lang led them to the back of the palace. Chapter 1738. Even in the dark of the night, her red dress was still very dazzling. Her elegant and free figure carried a wildness. Her red dress made a whistling sound in the wind. She was high up in the air, like a fairy from the 9 heavens who came on the breeze. As if they had sensed something, the Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom and the grey-robed elder who were rushing toward the north gate stopped at the same time and looked back. When they looked back, they saw the red figure coming from the sky. The young man in a dazzling red dress came from the night sky. His red dress was dazzling, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was so handsome that it was hard to tell whether he was a man or a woman. His aura was ethereal, but no one dared to look down on him. She appeared to be in her 20s, but the pressure emitted from her body caused people to tremble in fear. As her eyes moved, they felt as if they had nowhere to hide as she swept them with her oppressive gaze. This person was Fengzhou, the ghost doctor. It was said that Fengzhou, the ghost doctor, liked to dress in red. As a woman, she liked to dress in men's clothes. Her beauty was devastating, and her cultivation was mysterious. Who else could it be if not this person in front of them? They originally thought that the rumors were exaggerated, but now they knew why the ghost doctor Fengzhou's name had spread so quickly. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, with such means and courage, let alone a woman, there were not many men in the world who could be compared to her. It was not a loss for the Qishui Empire to be destroyed by her. However, even if the Qishui Empire was destroyed, his Dongyao Kingdom would not be destroyed. No matter how powerful Fengzhou was, he must kill him tonight at all costs. "You two, stand down," Fengzhou, who stopped in mid-air, said to Ling Shuang and Ling Hua behind him. Facing a fairy realm expert, the two of them were unable to withstand the pressure emanating from him. Yes. The two of them responded and quickly retreated to a safe distance. The grey-robed elder's gaze fell on Fengzhou. He scanned him with his divine sense and said to the Emperor of Dongyao Kingdom, "Emperor, Fengzhou is a cultivator at the middle stage of the fairy realm. We can definitely kill him with our combined strength." "Good. Let's kill her first." The Emperor of Dongyao country had also noticed that the power emanating from Fengzhou's body was that of a fairy realm cultivator. Since both of them were fairy realm cultivators, the two of them would definitely have a chance of winning. Thus, after instructing the others to eliminate the Phoenix guards at the north gate, the two of them gathered their chi and blocked Fingzhou from both sides. Fingzhou, you really don't want to take the path to heaven, but you insist on entering the gates of hell. Today, I want to see what you're capable of. As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword appeared in the monarch's hand. After injecting his spiritual power into it, he instantly attacked Fingzhou. Seeing this, the gray-robed elder gathered a stream of air in his hands and charged towards Fingzhou, preparing to take her down with a pincer attack. However, Fingzhou, who was watching the two approaching from the left and right, curled his lips slightly, revealing a strange and evil smile. Is that so? I'm also very curious to see how many moves you can take from me. With a move of her hand, the Qingfeng sword, which was glowing with a sharp green light, appeared in her hand. Moreover, in the next moment, she no longer concealed her aura. Instead, she displayed her own power and cultivation. Chapter 1739. Celestial. Celestial Saint Powerhouse. The two of them screamed. When they sensed the pressure and aura of the Celestial Saint Powerhouse, their faces turned pale. How could they still have the will to fight? Quick! Run! They did not even have the will to fight. When they came back to their senses, their first thought was to run. Run as far as they could. The strength of a celestial saint was equivalent to the strength of 100 fairy realm experts. They would have to be crazy to overestimate their own abilities to fight against her. At this moment, they couldn't help but curse loudly. Who is it? Who said that she's only at the nascent soul stage? Run. Fingzhou, who was behind them, curled her lips into a smile. Do you think you can run away? As soon as she finished speaking, the red figure instantly swept toward the gray-robed elder. As the red figure swept past him, the gray-robed elder, who was originally running away in a panic, stiffened and fell from midair. Bang! No one saw how she had acted. She did not even need to fight, as she had easily ended the life of a fairy realm master. The body of the gray-robed old man, who had fallen to the ground, twitched. His eyes were fixed on the sky, until he breathed his last. When the Emperor of Eastern Glory Kingdom heard the commotion, he turned around abruptly. When he saw that the gray-robed elder's neck was bleeding as he breathed his last, his whole body trembled. Since they had cultivated to the fairy realm, death was already something that was very far away from them. However, when death loomed over them at such a close distance, he suddenly realized that death was not far away from them all this time. When he saw the red-robed Fingzhou coming toward him with the Qingfeng sword, many things flashed through his mind. In the end, he did not run away. Instead, he fell from mid-air and knelt on the ground. Don't kill me. I'll serve you as my master. When he said this, his eyes were filled with terror and fear. Yes, he was afraid of death. At his level of cultivation, he was even more afraid of death. He had everything that many people would never be able to obtain in their entire lives: power, status, fame, and fortune. He did not want to die like this. He did not want his royal family to be slaughtered. Therefore, he could only lower his head and beg Fingzhou. Because he knew that this was his only way out. Only in this way could he have a chance to survive. His Dongyao Empire would not be destroyed in his hands and would not fall into chaos like Qi Shui. The emerald-edged sword was pressed against the forehead of the Eastern Glory monarch who was kneeling on the ground. As long as it was an inch closer, it could easily take his life. However, the emerald-edged sword in Fengzhou's hand suddenly stopped. She looked at him and raised her eyebrows. What did you say? I said, I'm willing to serve you as my master. I, Dongyao, am willing to listen to your orders. I only beg you to spare Dongyao and spare my life. I will go through fire and water for you and be loyal to you. As he spoke, as if he was afraid that she would not believe him, he immediately made a heaven and earth contract to serve her as his master. Seeing the light of the heaven and earth contract dissipate, Fingzhou's eyes flashed. He stared at the monarch for a long time. After a long time, he moved the emerald-edged sword in his hand away. He stretched out his finger and tapped the monarch's forehead to extract a strand of consciousness. Fine. Since you serve me as your master, I'll spare your life. However, you must remember that from this moment on, your life and your Dongyao Empire are in my hands. You have to obey my orders. Chapter 1740. Thus, Fingzhou brought him to the sky above the north gate. Looking at the people fighting below, she said, "Everyone, stop." Her voice, which contained the might of a celestial saint, came down from the sky like a huge net, causing everyone below to stop. At this time, the people of Dongyao Empire had already suffered countless casualties. Everyone raised their heads and was surprised when they saw the Emperor of Dongyao Empire, who was respectfully following behind Fingzhou. The Phoenix Guards and the others looked at each other and stepped forward to bow. "Greetings, Master." Fingzhou responded and said, "From today onwards, Dongyao Empire belongs to me, Fingzhou." Hearing this, the guards of Dongyao Empire below were in an uproar. They were somewhat in disbelief, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that it was reasonable. These Phoenix Guards were so strong that just a few dozen of them could deal with more than 100 of them. Moreover, there was also the ghost Dr. Fengzhou, who could easily kill a fairy realm expert by herself. If the Eastern Yao Empire were to join her forces, it would only be beneficial to them. At least, they would no longer have to worry that ghost Dr. Fengzhou would attack them again. "Hurry up and kneel." The Emperor of Dongyao Empire shouted behind Fingzhou. Hearing this, the people of Dongyao Empire hurriedly knelt down. At this time, they were either injured or dead. There were less than 1/3 of them left. Moreover, the palace was set on fire and scattered in all directions. It would probably take a few months for it to recover to its original state. On the other side, after hearing Fingzhou's voice, Guan Shilin, Hui Lang, and the others looked at each other and quickly stopped fighting. They brought their men over. When they arrived at the north gate, they were actually a little surprised when they saw the scene. With Fingzhou's strength today, it should not be difficult for him to destroy Dongyao Empire, but she took it under her force. They just did not know if they would really submit to her after killing so many people of Dongyao Empire. At the same time, the people of the major families outside the palace looked at the rising flames in the palace and could not help but sigh. They thought that Dongyao Empire might really be finished just like that. However, who knew that soon, another piece of news came. What? The Emperor has submitted to ghost Dr. Fingzhou. An ancestor of a family widened his eyes in astonishment. Yes, he has also made a heaven and earth contract to serve ghost Dr. Fingzhou as his master, the secret guard reported. Hiss. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the monarch would make such a decision? Another old ancestor gasped and murmured. The great ancestor beside him stroked his beard and said, "There's nothing wrong with that. Surrendering to ghost Dr. Feng 9 and protecting Dongyao Nation is something anyone would do." Ancestor of the ancestor. That's right. Compared to the extermination of one's clan, what was wrong with submitting to another and worshipping the strong as their master? The most important thing was protecting they wanted Dongyao's Dongyao Empire. Search. Let's see what we'll do next. One of the patriarchs waved his hand and gestured for the secret guard to leave. He ancestor emperor, the ancestor family guard ancestor. Left is. Ancestor. The others nodded one after another. Not only is she not simple. She has great strength and can destroy the royal family with a raise of her hand. She is also tolerant. Her breadth of mind is indeed not something that ordinary people can compare to. Chapter 1741. The few of them looked at each other and did not speak. They had not fought with Fingzhou before, so they naturally did not know her strength. However, to be able to force the Emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country to submit to her, it was clear that she was not simple. In the main hall of Dongyao Palace, Guan Shilin, Du Fan, and the 8 captains of the Phoenix Guard stood on the left and right sides. Ling Shuang and Ling Hua stood on the left and right sides of the main seat. Sitting on the main seat was Fengzhou, who was dressed in a dazzling red robe. She reclined in her seat and supported her face with one hand. She looked at the Emperor of Dongyao Empire, who was standing in the middle of the hall, and said slowly, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, I will leave the rest to you." The Emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country gulped and asked, "Please enlighten me." "I will leave the remaining 2 empires to you. In a month, I want these 2 empires to disappear," she said in a low voice. Hearing this, the Emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country was shocked. "A month? How can you do it in a month? The distance between these 2 empires is also quite far. Can't you do it?" She glanced at him and asked slowly. Seeing her gaze on him, the Emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country quickly lowered his head and said, "Yes. I will definitely do it within a month. I will not let you down. Brother, bring some people and help him. In a month, I want these 2 empires to disappear." Fengzhou looked at Guan Shilin and said, "No problem." Guan Shilin replied loudly and accepted the task. Hearing this, the Emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country was overjoyed. "That's great. With Guan Shilin's help, it would be easier to get things done." Fengzhou thought for a while and said, "Bring Tun Yun and Lao Bai with you too. Let them have more experience and have a good rest today. You are dismissed." "Yes." Everyone responded and walked out. Only Guan Shilin stayed behind. "Xiaozhou, aren't you afraid that there will be problems in the future if you take over Dongyao?" Guan Shilin asked what he was worried about. After all, only the Emperor of Eastern Glory Nation had signed the Heaven and Earth contract. "It's fine." She smiled and said, "With this lesson, they won't dare to be enemies with us even if we don't make a contract with Heaven and Earth. Moreover, there are some benefits to taking over Dongyao. At least, many things are now for Dongyao. If they really dare to have second thoughts, it won't be too late to destroy them in the future. Since you said so, then let's do it." Guan Shilin sat down and said, "Leave the rest to us. Are you going to the Xianyuan Empire first? Mose must be very anxious from waiting. Let's go and see if there are any other problems with him. After helping him deal with this matter, I'm going to the upper continents." She looked outside with a deep gaze, unable to forget the scene of her home and family being destroyed. "All right, don't worry. Leave everything else to me," he said in a deep voice. Fengzhou nodded and looked at him with a smile. "I'll bring Hui Lang and Ling Shuang to the Xianyuan Empire tomorrow. If there's anything, you can contact us again." Hearing this, Guan Shilin responded, "All right, I understand." That night, the people of Dongyao Empire were bandaging their wounds and recuperating. The Phoenix Guards and the others had already settled down in the resting area. Only 2 guards were left to rest. Chapter 1742. Xianyuan Empire. Xuanyu and Mose looked at the white-robed man standing in front of him with a gentle smile on his face, looking like an immortal. He couldn't help but frown. "What are you doing here?" His tone didn't hide his dislike and disdain for the man. This man always casually appeared in front of the woman he loved. He didn't have a good impression of him since the first time they met. In his opinion, this man always stuck to his woman's side and was an eyesore. Mo Chen's handsome face had a gentle smile on it. He looked at Xianyuan Mose, who was sitting in front of the desk in a black robe. He hadn't seen him for half a year, but the aura of a king on his body had become even sharper. He exuded a domineering aura that didn't make him angry. Mo Chen couldn't help but sigh. The Emperor Star was indeed the Emperor Star. Don't worry, I'm not here to look for you. I'm here to wait for Fingzhou. He walked slowly to a chair and sat down. He picked up the teacup on the table, but there was no tea. He said to Ying Yi, who was hiding in the shadows, "Ying Yi, get someone to bring me a cup of tea. I haven't even had a drink on the way here." Ying Yi glanced at Mo Qin, who was acting as if he was in his own house, and then looked at his master, whose face was dark. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Ying Yi flashed out and asked someone to make 2 cups of tea. He personally brought them in, placing 1 cup on his master's table and the other beside Mo Chen's chair. "Then you should know that she's not here." Xianyuan Mose took a sip of the tea, but his face was still dark. A man who looked like a pretty boy, came to tell you that he was here to wait for your woman. One could imagine how he felt. He knew that his woman was very popular. If he was not careful, anyone would target her. However, so many things had happened in the past 6 months. The two of them had not seen each other for more than half a year. Moreover, the two of them had always been apart more than together. It was no wonder that he felt a sense of crisis. Mo Qin nodded. "Yes, I know she's not here, but she should be back soon, so I'm waiting for her here." He had a gentle smile on his face as he glanced at Xianyuan Mose and took a sip of his tea. Then, he said unhurriedly, "Moreover, I plan to stay by her side this time. After settling the matter here, I think she will want to go to the upper continent. It just so happens that I'm familiar with that place. With me by her side, you don't have to worry too much." Ying Yi stood to the side and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He felt that the temperature in the palace seemed to have dropped a bit, and there was a murderous aura in the air, which made him feel extremely nervous standing here. This young master Mo Qin, was he purposely trying to stir up trouble? Wasn't he worried that his master would kill him in a fit of anger? However, speaking of which, who was stronger between the two of them? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look back and forth between the two of them, secretly guessing. Young Master Mo Qin came from a family in the upper continent. It was said that his family had an extraordinary position there, and he was also the disciple of Tianji Elder. His background was not inferior to his master's at all. Chapter 1743. Is that so? Then this monarch would like to see if you have the qualifications to say such words. As soon as he finished speaking, the teacup lid in his hand instantly shot out towards Mo Qin. Mo Qin, who had been drinking his tea, raised his head to look at him and revealed a warm smile. "I'm very willing to accompany you." As he spoke, he raised his hand and turned it. The teacup lid that was flying towards him stopped in front of him and did not advance any further. Instead, it spun in midair. Following the movement of his hand, the teacup slowly fell into his hand, easily neutralizing Xianyuan Mose's attack. A teacup with a lid. "I already have one, so I'll return this to you." A warm voice rang out, but the teacup lid in his hand was extremely fierce. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose stretched out 2 fingers to catch the teacup lid and placed it back on the teacup. Then, he stood up, and with a flash of his black figure, he had already rushed out. Seeing this, Mo Qin put down the teacup in his hand. With a refined smile on his face, he slowly walked out. Looking at Xianyuan Mose, who was standing outside the palace, he smiled and said, "I've just arrived, and you're already attacking me. That's not very kind of you. This monarch has already treated you to tea. What's wrong? Not very kind. Since it's like this monarch will give you another greeting gift after not seeing you for so long." As soon as the deep and magnetic voice rang out, the black figure rushed out and attacked Mo Qin, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Mo Qin's spiritual aura was released in an instant. His white robes fluttered and his black hair fluttered. Facing Xianyuan Mose's attack, he was not alarmed or fearful. Instead, he was as calm as before, and a warm smile hung on his face. It wasn't until Xianyuan Mo's black silhouette was right in front of him that he finally made his move. The two silhouettes, one black and one white, were exchanging blows outside the palace. A powerful aura surged from both of their bodies. Although they were fighting barehanded, every strike made the shadow guards in Yingyi, who were hiding in the shadows, fearful. This was a battle between experts. There were no weapons in their hands, but the aura that permeated the surroundings was so powerful. The aura of the two people seemed to be equally matched, and the pressure they exuded couldn't tell which one was stronger. Their speed was extremely fast, and with the strength of Yingyi and the others, they simply couldn't see their moves. They could only see one black and one white, neither giving way to the other. Bang! Yingyi's eyes widened as he saw his master suddenly turn his palm into a fist and punch Mo Qin in the eye. Mo Qin drew in a sharp breath and hurriedly covered his eye and retreated. When he moved his eyes away, there was a red bruise around his left eye. The red bruise did not match his fairy-like appearance at all. It looked a little strange, and people who saw it could not help but smile. "You dare to slap me in the face?" Mo Chen's gentle face cracked, and the smile on his lips could no longer be maintained. Xianyuan Mo calmly glanced at him, and curled his lips in a good mood. "Ben Jun only added some color to your eye. It's much more pleasing to the eye this way." Mo Chen's mouth twitched. "So that's how it is. Then I really have to thank you." As soon as he finished speaking, he attacked again. "No need to thank me. This is what Ben Jun should do." He had wanted to beat him up for a long time, but one punch was too little. And, if he hit the other eye, it should be enough. Chapter 1744. N. Pooh. With a groan, he spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backwards. Mo Qin was stunned, as if he had not expected this to happen. He should have been able to dodge that attack, but why did he pull back his fist in an instant? Also, although his palm had hit him, he had held back 70% of his strength. He knew that the power of that palm was not enough to make him spit out blood. Just as he was puzzled, he heard a familiar voice with a cry of surprise. He instinctively turned his head, and when he saw a red figure flitting past him like the wind, he finally understood. Zay! Fengzhou supported him as he fell. She saw that his face was pale, but he was still holding on. When he saw her, he revealed a surprised expression, and his deep eyes could not hide the joy and affection. Just as he spoke, his entire body fell into her arms, as if he had fainted. Zay! She supported him, and did not ask why Mo Qin was here. She immediately carried Xianyuan Mo in her arms and walked towards his chambers. Yingyi, who was hiding in the shadows, was speechless. He did not expect his master to suddenly do this. This completely overturned his understanding of his master. So when his master was two-faced, he could be like this. Immediately, he came out from the shadows, glanced at Mo Qin, and quickly followed. Hui Lang, who had followed behind Fengzhou, was also dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He originally wanted to quickly step forward to help support his master, but who knew that Lang Hua beside him would pull him back. Then, he saw the ghost doctor directly carry his master. It was undeniable that when he saw his master, who had an imposing appearance and a domineering aura, being carried in a princess carry by the ghost doctor to the bedroom, he was really a little confused. This ghost doctor had been pretending to be a man for too long. Did she forget that she was a woman? In this world, how could a woman directly carry a man in a princess carry? Perhaps his master was very happy, very satisfied, and very enjoyable, but he felt that it was very strange just by looking at it. Ling Shuang looked expressionless, but the gentleness in her eyes and the smile on her face could not be deceived. On the other hand, Ling Hua laughed. Master's temperament is so direct. Yama Lord hasn't seen Master for so long, he must miss you very much. As he spoke, he looked at Mo Qin, who was standing in front of him in a white robe, and slowly walked forward. Mo Chen was still in a state of shock. Seeing Fingzhou directly carry Xianyuanmo's in his arms was far more impactful than seeing Xianyuanmo's scheming. He never knew that women could be like this. Directly carrying a man by the waist. That scene was very strange, but it seemed so natural for the two of them, without any sense of disharmony. From that scene, he saw that Fingzhou attached great importance to Xianyuanmo's. She didn't care about the opinions of others. She only had eyes for him. That kind of deep love expressed in her body language made him, as a bystander, feel a little uncomfortable. But he also knew that if there was such a woman who loved him deeply, perhaps he would be like Xianyuanmo's just now, and use some scheming to win the beauty's pity and tenderness, but when the person being schemed against was him, his mood wasn't very good. Chapter 1745. Hearing this voice, Mo Chen came back to his senses. Looking at the gentle youth in front of him, he smiled and asked, "Say, if I went to visit Xianyuanmo's now, would your master be unhappy?" Leng Hua smiled and said, "If young master Mo Chen is worried that my master will be unhappy, you can go later." Hearing this, Mo Chen shook his head. "How can I do that? If I go later, the misunderstanding will get worse. Even if she is unhappy now, I still think it's better to go and clear things up." Saying this, he nodded slightly at him and walked towards the bedroom at the back. Seeing this, Leng Hua's smile deepened, but he stopped and did not follow. "Let's go. Let's tidy up first." Leng Hua walked over from behind and said to Leng Hua. "All right." Leng Hua replied with a smile and left with her. Hui Lang scratched his head and looked at them for a while. He muttered something and then walked towards the bedroom at the back. As for Xianyuanmo's, who was being carried by Fingzhou to the bedroom, he attracted the attention of countless people along the way. No matter if it was the palace guards or maids, or the hidden guards hidden in the shadows, when they saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Most of the guards and maidservants in the palace did not recognize Feng Nine. Therefore, when they saw their noble and dignified crown prince being intimately carried to his bedchamber by a man in red, they all whispered to each other. "Who is that? Heavens! Am I seeing things? I actually saw His Highness being carried by a man. But that man in red is really handsome. He doesn't look strong, but he easily carried His Highness the Crown Prince. But doesn't His Highness the Crown Prince dislike people getting close to him? How dare this person? What's wrong with His Highness the Crown Prince? It looks like he fainted. What do you know? That's the ghost Dr. Fingzhou. She's a woman and is said to be our Crown Prince's wife. They're just short of marriage." "Aw. Really? Why didn't such a big piece of news spread? Many people know about this. Moreover, our Crown Princess isn't an ordinary person. News has spread that Qishui province was destroyed by our Crown Princess." The one who spoke was a guard. He raised his head and puffed out his chest as he spoke to the crowd. A white-clothed young master just passed by. "Who was that? I don't know about that, but to be able to move around in the palace, he definitely isn't an ordinary person. Look, that person is heading in the direction of the Crown Prince's bedroom. Perhaps he's heading for the Crown Prince and our Crown Princess." After a while, Hui Lang walked over from behind and heard their conversation. He glanced at them and said, "What are you talking about? Aren't they all gone now?" When they saw Hui Lang, they lowered their heads and hurriedly dispersed. Hui Lang shook his head and looked at the figure in front of him. After thinking for a while, he felt that it would be better to talk to Yingyi first. In the bedroom, Fingzhou put Xianyuanmo's on the big bed. Just as he was about to take his pulse, he saw that the person who had just closed his eyes woke up. "I'm fine." As Xianyuanmo spoke, he looked at her in front of him. His deep eyes were filled with pity as he said, "You've lost weight." As he spoke, he reached out and touched her face. Chapter 1746. "Don't worry, it's just a small injury." Don't blame Mo Chin, he didn't expect you to suddenly come, cough cough cough. Xianyuan Mo's coughed a few times as he spoke. Hearing this, Fingzhou's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile, but she didn't show it. She just nodded seriously, yes, don't worry, I won't blame him. I think he didn't mean it. Xianyuan Mo's, who had one hand clenched into a fist by his lips, was stunned when he heard this. He instinctively looked up and happened to see her teasing gaze. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed and gently coughed. You must be tired from the journey, right? Do you want to rest? As he spoke, he shifted his body on the bed to make room for her. No, I'm worried about your injury. No matter what, I have to boil some medicine or something to drink. Fingzhou said while holding back her laughter. Xianyuan Mo's mouth twitched. He felt like he had shot himself in the foot. In a flash, he saw that she was already holding his hand and taking his pulse. Seeing this, he could only let her take his pulse. Not long after, Fingzhou withdrew her hand and said, "There's nothing wrong with your body, just that your liver is a little hot. You didn't rest well, you need to rest more." As she spoke, she pulled the blanket up and covered him. You rest well here, I'll go out and talk to Mo Chin. What's there to talk about with him? Are you close to him? He asked with a hint of jealousy in his voice. Fingzhou rested her chin on one hand and thought for a while. Yes, I'll go out and ask him why he hurt you. I can't let you get hurt for nothing, right? Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo's reached out and pulled her onto the bed. He lifted the blanket and covered her with it. He bent his arm and she lay in the crook of his arm. He then reached out and hugged her tightly with both hands. That person isn't a good person, stay away from him in the future. Fingzhou chuckled. Stay away from him in the future, lest you get hurt by him again. I went easy on him. Otherwise, how could he be my opponent? He snorted softly, but the corners of his lips curled up. He hugged the person in his arms and revealed a satisfied smile. Perhaps it was because he hadn't had a good rest recently, but he soon fell asleep while hugging Fingzhou. Feeling his steady breathing, Fingzhou smiled, nestled in his arms and closed his eyes. After not seeing him for so long, she missed him very much. She just didn't expect him to do this as soon as they met. It really made her angry and amused. Outside, Mo Chin, who had just entered the palace, was stopped by Ying Yi. Ying Yi looked at him, his voice flat. Young Master Mo Chin, my master and the ghost doctor are resting, please come back later, young Master Mo Chin. Hearing this, Mo Chin's eyes flashed with surprise. He glanced inside and smiled, that's fine. He didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Not long after, Hui Lang walked over. Just as he was about to enter, he saw Ying Yi walk out. He waved his hand and called out with a grin, Ying Yi, I'm back. Ying Yi glanced at him, I saw you. How is Master? How did he get hurt by young Master Mo Chin? Is he all right? As he spoke, he stretched his head to look inside the palace to see if there was any sign of the ghost doctor. Chapter 1747. Oh, that's right, you must not have received the news. Hui Lang grinned. Even if you did, you wouldn't be as fast as us. Come, let's sit over there and I'll tell you. He put an arm around his shoulder and walked towards the stone chair in front. Let me tell you, Dong Yao has submitted to the ghost doctor. The two sat by the stone chair with a pot of tea and 2 plates of desserts. They talked about the submission of the Dong Yao Empire. In the evening, Fingzhou got up first and left the room. When she saw Ying Yi and Hui Lang waiting outside, she asked, Ying Yi, how is the monarch's health? Has he gotten better recently? Ghost doctor, the monarch has taken the medicine sent by the ghost doctor. His health has improved, but he still can't cultivate. Hearing this, she nodded and said to Hui Lang, come with me to take a look. Okay. Hui Lang replied and walked out with her. The two of them went outside. After walking for a short distance, they saw Mo Chen, who was dressed in white and looked like an immortal, standing under a tree. It was unknown what she was looking at. Grey Wolf's mouth twitched when he saw this. He felt that Mo Chen had purposely come here to be a high-grade ghost doctor. Fengjiu saw this and stopped in her tracks. She looked at the person by the tree and slowly walked up to him. "What are you looking at?" Mo Chen looked at her and smiled elegantly. "I'm looking at the birds on the tree." He was originally a gentleman, but unfortunately, on his handsome and gentle face, there were dark circles around his eyes, and blood was faintly visible. Seeing this, Feng Nine couldn't help but smile and pointed at his eyes. "Why don't you find some medicine to apply?" Walking out with such a swollen eye, he wasn't afraid of ruining his image as young Master Mo Chen. "I left it on purpose so that you could see how heavy-handed Xianyuan Mo's was," he said helplessly. "I didn't even provoke him." Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and took out a bottle of medicine from his sleeve. This medicine has the effect of promoting blood circulation and removing blood stasis. "Apply some tonight and you'll be fine tomorrow morning." "I won't say thank you." He took the medicine and put it away. Fengjiu shrugged. "I'm going to see the monarch." "Excuse me. I'll go with you." As he spoke, he looked at her, who was looking at him with raised eyebrows, and said, "I also just arrived at the Xianyuan Palace today. I exchanged a few blows with Xianyuan Mo's, but I haven't paid a visit to the Xianyuan monarch yet." "I'll go with you." "All right, let's go then." She walked forward, gesturing for Hui Lang to lead the way. Ying Yi, who was not far away, watched silently until their figures disappeared into the horizon. Then, he retracted his gaze and walked inside. When Xianyuan Mo's woke up, he saw that Fengjiu, who was beside him, was already gone. He got out of bed and stretched. He felt that his sleep was very comfortable and deep, and the fatigue in his body seemed to have lessened quite a bit. When he walked out, he saw that Ying Yi was waiting outside, but Fengjiu was nowhere to be seen. He asked, "Where is she?" "Master, the ghost doctor went to the monarch's place," Ying Yi reported. "How long has she been gone?" He looked at the sky and asked. "About the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn." Hui Lang accompanied her, but halfway there, they met young Master Mo Chen and seemed to have gone together, Ying Yi said. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo's raised his eyebrows and walked out, heading straight for his imperial father's palace. Chapter 1748. How is it? Is it going to be like this from now on? You can tell me directly, the Emperor of Xianyuan said as he looked at Fengjiu, who was dressed in red. Fengjiu smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. Although it is crippled, it can be cured." Seeing that the Emperor of Xianyuan did not seem to believe her, she said, "It's true. I'm not lying to you. You just need some time to recover. After you recover, you will have to restart your cultivation." Hearing this, the Emperor of Xianyuan was in disbelief. His body trembled slightly as he asked, "Really? He could still cultivate?" "Really?" Fengjiu nodded affirmatively. But my Dantian. It's fine. It can be repaired." She smiled and said, "I will stay here for a period of time to help you recuperate. You don't have to worry, I will first prepare some medicine for you to consume. Then, I will help you refine a pill that can repair your Dantian." As she said this, she flipped her hand and waved the badge in her hand. "Trust me, I'm not lying." Hearing this, the Emperor of Xianyuan felt his eyes heat up. He felt like he was going to cry. Only after experiencing it personally did he understand the pain of being crippled from a powerful cultivator to a mortal who could not cultivate. Because his cultivation had been crippled, his original appearance had also changed greatly. His entire person had aged overnight, and he had become so weak that it seemed like he could die at any moment. This experience was worse than death. Now, after hearing Fingzhou's words and seeing the 2 elixirs and the badge that she had given him to ease his mind, his heart was rekindled with hope. Thank you. Thank you. He held Fingzhou's hand and thanked her in a choked voice. This is what I should do. Fingzhou smiled and said, have a good rest. We will take our leave first. Once the medicine is prepared, we will come back. As they spoke, Xianyuan Mose walked in. He looked at his father who was holding Fingzhou's hand and instructed the palace servants, help the emperor to rest. Don't let him get too excited. Yes. The palace servants replied respectfully and helped the emperor of Xianyuan into the room. The emperor of the Xianyuan kingdom looked at him and nodded without saying anything else. After the 3 of them left the bedroom, Fingzhou, who was in the middle, was deep in thought. He said to Xianyuan Mose, I heard from Hui Lang that there are many thousand-year-old herbs in the Xianyuan Palace's medicine. Take me to see them. If there are suitable herbs, we can make medicine. When Imo Chen heard this, he said to Fingzhou, Mose, you 2 to go. I will go back first. Also, if there are any herbs that they don't have here that you need, you can look for me. Who knows, I might be able to help. Xianyuan Mose glanced at him and said, you should take care of yourself first. I don't think you can take out anything that I don't have here. As he spoke, he held Fingzhou and walked forward. Fingzhou turned around and smiled apologetically at him. When they were far away, he said to Xianyuan Mose, I feel that your attitude towards him is not very friendly. Yes, because I think he is too much of an eyesore. He said in a muffled voice. Hearing this, Fingzhou couldn't help but laugh. Why is he an eyesore? I think he is very pleasing to the eye. He is handsome and has an outstanding aura. How is he an eyesore? Chapter 1749. Hearing this, the corners of Fingzhou's mouth twitched. All right. This vinegar jar was overturned. No matter how he looked at it, it was an eyesore. The 2 of them chatted as they arrived at the medicine storehouse. When they entered, Xianyuan Mose sat to the side and said to Fingzhou, the herbs you need should be in here. Take whatever you need. There's a label on each box. I understand. Fingzhou responded. His gaze swept across the rows of boxes, sweeping across the names of the herbs. Xianyuan Mose watched her pick the herbs and said, the herbs that are more than 500 years old are on the left. There are also a dozen thousand-year herbs on the top row. Fingzhou pulled open the boxes and took out the herbs to look. He put away the ones that were suitable. He then made 2 packets of herbs and handed them to Xianyuan Mose. Before I make the medicine, boil this for your imperial father. Boil 2 bowls of water until it's half full. Xianyuan Mose took a look and asked, is it done? And we can go now. Then let's go. I've already asked someone to make your favorite dishes. It's getting late, so everything should be ready. He stepped forward and took her hand, leading her away. The guards of the medicine storehouse locked the doors again and stood guard by the door. When they were outside, Xianyuan Mose handed the 2 packets of herbs to Ying Yi and gave him some instructions. Then, he and Fingzhou went to the palace. When they arrived, they saw that someone had already ordered food to be served. Invite Imo Chen to eat with us. Fingzhou looked at him with a smile. He's a guest, how can we be rude? Xianyuan Mose originally wanted to say something, but when he saw her smiling eyes looking at him, he didn't say anything and just sat there. When Lang Hua, who was standing behind Fingzhou, saw this, he smiled and said, then I'll invite him. Then, he turned around and left. Looking at the table full of her favorite dishes, Fingzhou couldn't help but feel hungry. These days, if she wasn't cultivating, she was on the road, so she rarely had the chance to eat her favorite food. Now that she saw a table full of her favorite foods, she felt extremely warm. This is spiritual wine, drink a small cup and taste it. Xianyuan Mose poured her a small cup of spiritual wine and gestured for her to taste. Fengjiu looked at the half-filled wine cup and the corner of his mouth twitched. How can you taste anything with so little wine? How about a bigger cup? Hearing this, he glanced at her. Aren't you afraid of getting drunk? The after effect of this wine is very strong. Hearing this, she raised her eyebrows. Strong alcohol. Let me try it. She picked up the wine cup and smelled it. The rich aroma of the wine wafted to her nose, mixed with a strong spiritual aura. Just by smelling the wine, she knew that this was an excellent wine. She took a small sip and the mellow aroma of the wine spread from the tip of her tongue. The spiritual aura flowed down her throat with the wine and spread throughout her body. With just a small sip, her entire abdomen warmed up. How is it? Xianyuan Mose's deep black eyes fell on her face and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. Looking at her expression, he knew that she was extremely satisfied with the wine. It's very strong, there won't be a burning sensation, but it's different once it enters the stomach. Fengjiu said and took another sip before putting down the wine cup. Did he say that the after effect of this wine was very strong? With just 2 small sips, her entire body warmed up. This after effect was even stronger than the wine in her space. Chapter 1750. Hearing this voice, Fengjiu looked up. You're here. Come and sit, we were just talking about this spiritual wine. As he spoke, Fengjiu poured a small cup for him. Try it, this wine is really strong. I only took a small sip and I felt my whole body warming up. Oh. Then I'll have to try it. Mo Chen sat down beside Fengjiu and took a sip of the wine, then nodded. Not bad, this should be an aged wine. Xianyuan Mose glanced at him, his gaze falling on his eyes that were still stained with blood. He felt strangely happy, and said, Why didn't you apply medicine to your eyes? The color seems to have darkened quite a bit. Hearing this, Mo Chen looked at him and smiled. I did, and it was Fengjiu's ointment. It's very cold, I was thinking of applying another layer at night when I rest. As he spoke, he paused and looked at Fengjiu. The ghost doctor's ointment is very precious, I have to use it sparingly and keep the rest as a souvenir. Seeing the two bickering, Fengjiu smiled embarrassedly, and said to them, Come, eat quickly, before the food gets cold. As he spoke, he put some food into Xianyuan Mose's bowl. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose's expression softened, but he didn't argue with Mo Chen. Instead, he put some food into Fengjiu's bowl. Knowing that she liked to eat salt and pepper prawns, he peeled a few for her. Seeing her greedily signaling Shuang to pour more wine, he said to her, Don't drink too much wine, eat something to fill your stomach first. Mo Chen watched from the side, a trace of surprise flashing through his calm eyes. That's right, he never thought that the mighty Xianyuan Mose, who had always been in a position of power, who emitted a powerful and domineering aura from head to toe, would be so gentle and considerate towards the woman he loved. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that he would do something as simple as peeling the shrimp. He could not help but feel a little envious when he saw that the two of them did not need to speak much to communicate with each other. The two of them didn't talk much. Fengjiu was in charge of eating, while Xianyuan Mose was in charge of picking vegetables and peeling the shells. That kind of warm and natural happiness overflowed. Even a bystander like him could feel the warmth between the two of them. At this moment, he closed his eyes and slowly ate the food with his chopsticks. What he was thinking was that for a cultivator, life was too long. How lucky was Xianyuan Mose to be able to meet a person who is in love with you for the rest of your life. Mo Chen, I haven't asked you why you're here. Is something the matter? Fengjiu looked at Mo Chen who was eating and asked. He had already abstained from eating, so he only tasted the dishes on the table. However, she was different from him. Even though she had already abstained from eating, she still preferred to eat grains and meat. Just like the dishes on the table, The rice was spirit rice, the vegetables were spirit vegetables, and even the meat was spirit birds. Hearing this, Emo-chan looked at them and said, "Yes, there is something." As he spoke, he put down his chopsticks and took a sip of wine. Then, he said unhurriedly, "This time, I'm here to follow you. After you're done with your business here, you should be going to the upper continents, right? I can accompany you." "No need, I'll accompany her when the time comes," Xianyuanmo said. He glanced at him and knew that this person was here to cause trouble. Chapter 1751. Emo-chan glanced at them and smiled gently. "I'm worried that if I tell you, my other eye will be swollen too." Fengzhou couldn't help but laugh. He glanced at Xianyuanmo's, who was glaring coldly at Emo-chan, and smiled at Emo-chan. "That won't happen. Mose isn't an impulsive person." Xianyuanmo's, who was beside her, smiled happily when he heard that. His woman was protecting him. Emo-chan glanced at Xianyuanmo's and said, "All right then. I'll be frank. My master asked me to come down the mountain and follow you. I've told you the reason before." Hearing this, Fengzhou was slightly startled. She remembered that he had told her before that she was the star of the phoenix. He had also said that the tribulation on him would be born because of her and die because of her. However, she had never believed this and had never taken it to heart. Now that he had said this, she didn't know what to say for a moment. "Is there no way to break it?" She looked at him and asked. Xianyuanmo snorted coldly. "Break what tribulation?" Was he trying to rely on his woman? "The only way to break it is for me to stay by your side. It's unavoidable." He spoke casually, as if he didn't care about this tribulation. Fengzhou fell silent. After a long while, he said, "If that's the case, then you can stay." Since they were acquaintances, she naturally didn't want him to die because of her. However, she felt that it would be better if he didn't stay by her side. If he stayed by her side, this tribulation might really. Xianyuanmo didn't say anything. He only focused on eating. In his mind, he thought that his punch was too light. For the next 2 days, Yi personally brewed medicine for the monarch to drink, while Fengzhou went into seclusion, wholeheartedly refining pills and medicines. He wanted to help Xianyuanmo's father recover as soon as possible. Perhaps it was due to the demise of the monarch of Chishui province and the submission of the Dongyao Empire that the entire Xianyuan Empire had calmed down. Those forces that were ready to make a move didn't dare to show their faces after seeing the situation. In the following month, the Luoyue Empire was also annihilated. A large empire was directly annexed by Yixiao, and the remaining empire was not spared either. By the time the people from the upper continents found out about the 8 great empires, it was already too late. They sent out people, and when they found out that the ghost Dr. Fengzhou had appeared again, they quickly reported the news. Murong Yixian, who also received the news, rushed to the residence and told the news to Feng Sanyuan. What? Did Feng girl really kill the Chishui Empire's monarch? She even subdued the Dongyao Empire and annexed the other 2 empires? Feng Sanyuan asked in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. No matter which one of the 8 great empires it was, they weren't to be trifled with. Wasn't she a peak nascent soul cultivator? Even if she advanced, she should only be a fairy realm expert. With the strength of a fairy realm expert, how could she do all this? Could it be that someone helped her? It's true. I also just received the news. Murong Yixian sighed in his heart. No matter where she was, her radiance was so dazzling that it made people feel inferior. Then she's going to the 8 great empires now? Feng Sanyuan asked. His voice paused, and he asked again, is she in the Xianyuan Empire? Where's Xianyuanmo's? Chapter 1752. She's in Xianyuan Palace now. If we go now, we might be able to meet her. If we go later, I think she'll come to the upper continent. Murong Yixian said warmly. He thought of Fingzhou and her personality. He didn't need to ask to know that the upper continent's forces had destroyed the Phoenix dynasty that she had built up. This matter definitely wouldn't be settled just like that. Then what are we waiting for? I'll pack up immediately and bring Sushi back. He rushed inside while shouting, Sushi! Sushi! Pack up quickly, we'll go back immediately. They had been here for so long. Although Murong Yixian had sent someone to send a message over, he didn't know if they had received it. It was better for them to go back and take a look. Moreover, their son was still there. The child was still so young. He wouldn't be at ease if they weren't by his side. Sushi heard the voice and looked over. Seeing Murong Yixian there, she nodded at him. Young Master Murong is here. She had just finished speaking when she was pulled into the room by Feng Sanyuan. Yishuan said that Feng girl is now in Xianyuan Empire. Let's hurry back in case we can't meet her again. Hearing this, Sushi smiled. All right, then we'll set off immediately. They didn't have many things so they could just pack up and leave. Thinking that her son was still there, she became excited when she heard that they were going back. She guessed that she hadn't seen her son for a long time. The child was still growing, so he should have grown a lot, right? Murong Yixian watched them go into the room and came out after a while. He walked up. Grandpa Feng, I'll send you back. After not seeing her for so long, he also wanted to see how she was doing. This. Feng Sanyuan hesitated and asked, is this appropriate? Will it delay your matters? No. He smiled warmly in response. Then I'll have to trouble you. Feng Sanyuan sighed in his heart. He knew that he wanted to go back and see Feng girl. However, the past was the past. Even if he saw her, what could he do? Therefore, Murong Yixian took the bodyguard in black with him and boarded the flying ship together with them, heading towards the Xianyuan Empire downstream. On the other side, other than Fingzhou handing out some medicine for half a month, she had been in seclusion for an entire month and did not come out. During this period of time, Guan Shilin had returned with the Phoenix Guards. At the same time, the Emperor of Eastern Glory Empire had also arrived at the Xianyuan Empire. Another half a month passed. On this day, 3 heavenly thunders rumbled in the sky. The people guarding outside the alchemy room saw that after the 3 heavenly thunders fell, the entire palace was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. It should be done, Guan Shilin said with a smile on his resolute face. I knew that there's nothing the ghost doctor can't do. Hui Lang said with a grin, feeling a little excited. This was a pill that could restore the Dantian. Needless to say, just this ability alone was enough to shock the world. In the cultivation world, a destroyed Dantian was equivalent to being crippled. Many cultivators who had their Dantian destroyed were like cripples. Now that there was this pill, as long as the news of this pill that could restore Dantian spread, the entire cultivation world would be shaken. Chapter 1753. Xianyuan Mose waited quietly, listening to the conversations of the people around him. His gaze was fixed in front of him. After a while, he saw a red figure walking out from inside. Only then did he walk up to her. You've been in seclusion refining pills for so long. Is your body all right? He asked softly, looking at her tired face. I'm fine. Look. She shook the bottle in her hand, revealing a joyful smile. Look, I've refined it. There's hope for your father to recover his Dantian. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose didn't know what to say for a moment. He only felt his heart fill with bitterness. He knew that if that person wasn't his father, she wouldn't have locked herself in the pill refining room for almost 2 months just to refine this pill. Thousands of words turned into a sigh. He reached out and hugged her. Go and rest first. I'll accompany you later. All right. Fengjiu smiled in response, looking at Guan Shilin. Brother, you're back. We're back. Everything's done. Don't worry about anything. Guan Shilin smiled. That's good. Is everyone alright? She asked. Yes, everyone's fine. Not a single person is missing. Luo Yu answered from the side. Hearing this, she nodded. I won't talk much with you today. Tomorrow, let's celebrate tomorrow. Alright. Guan Shilin smiled in response, saying, then go and rest. Saying this, everyone retreated, making a path for them. Seeing Xianyuan Mo's leave with her in his arms, they gathered together again to chat. Master is amazing. He even refined this pill. Do you think he'll be able to refine a pill that can bring the dead back to life in the future? Luo Yu said with a smile, his tone full of yearning. Beside him, Fan Lin heard this and said, that shouldn't be possible. How can a pill that can bring the dead back to life be so easy to refine? In this world, the impossible can sometimes become possible, said Imo Chin. She glanced at the crowd, smiled, and then turned to leave. Everyone was deep in thought as they listened to his words. Then, they heard Guan Shilin's voice. Alright, let's go. I'll treat everyone to a drink. He patted them on their shoulders and led them away. The monarch of Dong Yao Empire stood there awkwardly. He paused for a moment before following them. He was originally planning to return to the Dong Yao Empire, but Guan Shilin dragged him here. His identity was a little awkward here, and he could only hope that he could explain things to Fengjiu in a couple of days before returning to Dong Yao. On the other side, Xianyuan Mo's, who had brought Fengjiu back to the palace, sat outside the room and waited. In the room, Fengjiu took a bath and changed into a red dress. After drying her hair, she walked out and sat down at the table. Has anything happened recently? Are there any other forces in the upper reaches taking action? They sent some people over, but we took care of them. After a few batches of people, they quieted down and didn't take action again. Xianyuan Mo's took the hair band she handed over and gently tied up her silky hair behind her back, leaving only 2 strands to fall on her cheeks. It added a charming and enchanting look to her already beautiful face. Chapter 1754. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. That's because you have to keep watch here. Otherwise, with your strength at the peak of Sage Immortal, how could you not be able to handle it? She was only able to see the level of his strength after advancing to Sage Immortal. She had the help of pills, and she also had a profound spirit body, which was why her cultivation was so fast. On the other hand, he cultivated solidly. Hearing her say that she was at the peak of Sage Immortal, Xianyuan Mo's looked deeply at her. It's not easy for you to reach Sage Immortal in half a year. With this kind of strength, she was only 1 step away from advancing. To go upstream, this kind of strength is not enough. As she spoke, she thought of her grandfather and the others who were killed by the forces of the upper continents, and she couldn't help but clench her fists. She wouldn't let this go. She would definitely make them pay a painful price. Wait until my father's body recovers, then I'll go with you. He held her hand and said. Fengjiu didn't say anything, and only leaned into his embrace. No one knew what she was thinking. At the same time, outside the Xianyuan Palace, a flying ship slowly descended. After the ship stopped, Feng Sanyuan and Su Shi walked out of the ship and arrived at the palace gates. Muro Ni Xian also walked out from behind, followed by the black-clothed man, who stood next to Feng Sanyuan. Who is it? The palace guard guarding the palace gates shouted in a deep voice. Go and report that I'm Feng Sanyuan. Knowing that these people didn't recognize him, Feng Sanyuan wasn't angry, and only looked at the guard in front of him and said. Hearing that it was someone with the surname Feng, the guard was startled and hurriedly ran inside. When he got inside, he just happened to meet Hui Lang, who was about to go find Guan Shilin and the others, and called out to him. Guard Captain. Hui Lang hummed a little tune and wanted to find Guan Shilin and the others to drink a few cups, but who knew that a guard would block his way? He immediately asked in displeasure, "What are you doing? Have you grown bold? You dare block my way?" "No, Guard Captain, there are a few people outside, and one of them said he's called Feng Sanyuan. Please report to His Highness the Crown Prince and see if he wants to see him," the guard hurriedly said. Who knew that just as he finished speaking, Hui Lang's eyes widened in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. "What did you say? Feng Sanyuan? He's really Feng Sanyuan? Did you hear wrong? How was this possible? Didn't the ghost doctor's grandfather and the others?" "You didn't hear wrongly. That's what that person said. They're waiting outside the palace." Before he could finish his sentence, he saw Grey Wolf dashing out of the palace, leaving him dumbfounded. "Yes, fine, is ye? Sushi Feng Sen and the others, Feng Sanyuan was ye sends, to the Sanyuan, to them, to the STOC them to say, to Sanyuan shield. SN to see, child, don't worry, it's fine. We can all live well, and ye, must still be alive." Feng Sanyuan patted her hand and said. Murong Ishuan, who was standing behind them, heard this and his eyes flashed slightly, but he didn't say anything. "Old Master Feng. Is it really you? Am I seeing things?" Hui Lang quickly rushed over, and when he saw Feng Sanyuan, who looked like a man in his 20s or 30s, his eyes widened. Chapter 1755. "Yes, it's us. Feng girl is here, right? Feng Xiao and little Feng Yi are here too?" Feng Sanyuan asked. "That's great. It's great that you're still alive. The ghost doctor always thought that you were burned to death in the fire. If she knew that you were still alive, she would definitely be very happy," Hui Lang said excitedly. He looked to the side and couldn't help but widen his eyes as he exclaimed, Murong Yi Xian." Compared to Hui Lang's shock, Murong Yi Xian only nodded faintly. "Can you bring us in now?" "Hui Lang, is ye, still safe?" Sushi asked somewhat anxiously. Her heart was always worried about her son. Hearing this, Hui Lang didn't know how to answer her for a moment. He only smiled embarrassedly. "Actually, I'm not very clear about this either. You guys go in first. When you see the ghost doctor, she will naturally tell you." As he spoke, he hurriedly brought them inside and let them rest in the palace. He then hurried to the back of the palace to find his master and the ghost doctor. Oh no, oh no. He rushed into the palace and saw the two people sitting next to each other. Instead of retreating as usual, he directly rushed forward. Even Ingyi, who was guarding outside, couldn't help but follow him. "What's wrong?" Xianyuan Mose asked in a low voice. His deep gaze swept towards Hui Lang at the same time. "They're here. Ghost Doctor, your grandfather and the others are here." Hearing this, Fengjiu stood up with a whoosh. "What did you say?" Her body trembled slightly as she forcefully suppressed the shock in her heart. "It's true. Your grandfather Feng Sanyuan and that Sushi are both alive. They're in the main hall right now." Before she finished speaking, the red figure swept out like lightning. Xianyuan Mose's eyes also moved slightly as he looked towards Hui Lang. "They're still alive. Are you sure?" No, it's definitely not wrong." As Hui Lang spoke, he seemed to have thought of something. He stole a glance at his master and hesitated, wondering if he should tell him that Murong Yi Xian had also come. "If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you hemming and hawing?" Xianyuan Mose glanced at him and walked out. "Yes," Hui Lang responded. He thought for a while and said, "Master, that Murong Yi Xian is also here. He came with old Master Feng and the others." When he finished speaking, he saw his master stop and turn around. Are you talking about Murong Yixian? Xian Yuanmos looked at him and asked with a thoughtful expression. Hui Lang nodded. Yes, that's him. Hearing that, Xian Yuanmos turned around and strode forward. He thought to himself, I haven't heard from Murong Yixian for so long. Why did he suddenly appear? And with old Master Feng and the others. In front of the main hall, Feng Jiu rushed in like the wind. Grandfather. She threw herself forward and hugged Feng Sanyuan tightly. Grandfather, it's really you. It's really you. I thought I'd never see you again. That her eyes were slightly red. She thought she had lost her family, but now, they had appeared in front of her again. This kind of excitement couldn't be expressed with words. Feng Sanyuan patted her head gently, his voice filled with emotion. Grandfather also thought I'd never see you again. Chapter 1756. Xiao Zhou, where's Yi, Are Yi, and Yang okay? Su Shi asked worriedly. It was no wonder that she was so worried about her child. That child was only about 3 years old. Such a small child was protected by Yang, who was only 7 or 8 years old. How could she be at ease? And after so long, she didn't know how the child was doing. The more anxious she was, the more uneasy she felt. It would be fine if Yi, and Yang were safe. But if something happened to both children, she didn't know if she could bear the blow. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's heart clenched. She took a step back and supported Su Shi. Seeing the worry and uneasiness on her face, she couldn't help but hesitate. Her hand was supporting Su Shi's and she naturally felt that Su Shi's body wasn't as good as before. Thinking about it, she probably hadn't fully recovered from her injuries in the fire. After not seeing her for so long, Su Shi's face was pale and thin. There were even dark circles under her eyes. It was obvious that she was worried and couldn't sleep well. If she were to tell her that both children died in the mouths of ferocious beasts, how would she be able to bear such a blow? If she fell ill from excessive worry, would she didn't dare to think further. After all, as a doctor, she knew very well that sometimes, mental illness could only be cured by mental medicine. No matter how good her medical skills were, if a person didn't want to live, then she was helpless. Xiao Zhou, tell me, where's Yi, Yi, and Yang, how are they? Are they still alive? Seeing Feng Zhou's silent expression, Su Shi's tears fell uncontrollably. Her heart trembled. She didn't dare to imagine and was afraid to know. But, how were her children? Even if the truth was hurtful, she had to know. Feng Jiu secretly made a decision in her heart when she saw her crying so hard that her face turned pale and she looked as if she was about to collapse. Grandmother, why are you crying? Don't cry. Little Feng Yi and Yang are fine. They're fine. She softened her voice and tried her best to hide the sorrow in her heart. Hearing this, Su Shi was stunned. She looked up at her with teary eyes. Really? Are they all alive and well? You're not lying to me. Her hands clutched her hands, afraid that this was just a white lie. Really, why would I lie to you? She smiled and wiped away the tears on her face. Sit down first. I'll tell you slowly. She helped her sit down and then turned to look at her grandfather. Grandfather, have a seat. The moment his voice fell, he looked at Murong Yixian at the side and couldn't help but be slightly surprised. It's you. It's me. Murong Yixian nodded slightly. A pair of gentle eyes fell on her. His eyes were deep and she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Outside, after hearing Feng Jiu's words, Xian Yuanmos informed Hui Lang behind him and signaled to Lang Hua and Lang Shuang who were waiting at the side. Then, he walked inside. Sis, I'll go out for a while. Lang Hua said to Lang Shuang in a low voice and left with Hui Lang. Lang Shuang glanced at them and looked away. He quietly stood outside and looked inside, listening to their conversation. Chapter 1757. Mose, you're here. Sit. Feng Sanyuan gestured for him to sit. However, ever since he heard Feng Girl's words, his heart had been in his throat. Sushi might not be able to see it, but he could. When Sushi asked Feng Girl if Yi was still alive, her expression changed for a moment. Did his child really meet with a mishap? Such a small child, he was only 3 years old. When he thought of this, his eyes turned red. The grief in his heart was unbearable, but he still tried his best to suppress it. Because after hearing Feng Girl's words, Su Shi, who had been worried the entire way, finally let out a sigh of relief. He knew that she had been tense all this time, keeping herself as tight as a string. If she really knew that her child had died, he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to live on. Xiao Zhou, where's your father? Is Yi with him? Because she didn't see Feng Xiao, so she thought that the child was with Feng Xiao and the others. Fengjiu held her hand and said, Grandmother, don't worry. Drink some tea to calm your mind. Your injuries haven't fully healed yet, so you can't be too agitated. She sat down at the side and glanced at her grandfather with a smile. Grandfather, grandmother, Yi, and Yang Yang aren't with my father. They had other encounters. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo sat and sipped his tea without looking up. Muro Nishuan's eyes flashed, but his expression remained the same. Old Master Feng nodded and didn't speak. Only Su Shi was startled and asked, what encounter? If they weren't with your father, then who were they with? At that time, they walked out of the secret passage and arrived at a safe place. However, the two children were still young and the phone guards didn't know of the existence of the secret passage. When we returned, it had already been some time. Feng Zhou's voice paused. She looked at the nervous Su Shi and said, they experienced some things outside. They were captured and taken to the slave market. Later, they escaped. In order to avoid those people, they entered a small forest. And then... Forest? Where was the forest? Are there any ferocious beasts? Su Shi's heart was in her throat. Her face turned pale when she thought of the two children going into the forest alone. Although Yang Yang had undergone training, she was only a child of 7 or 8 years old. If she encountered a ferocious beast, how could she withstand it? As Feng Sanyuan listened, his hands secretly clenched into fists. He could imagine how dangerous the situation was. The two children should be there. Feng Jiu glanced at her and nodded. Yes, they encountered a ferocious beast inside and were attacked by it. Once these words came out, Su Shi's entire body softened. Feng Sanyuan quickly went forward to support her and comforted her. Don't worry. Didn't Feng Girl say it already? They're fine. They're fine. They're fine. They were attacked by ferocious beasts and were injured. At that time, we were following the clues to find them, but we were still one step behind. When we arrived, the two of them were saved by an old Taoist. Fengjiu narrowed his eyes when he said this. Chapter 1758. However, after she sent people to search for them, there was still no news. Then, it was very likely that they had been eaten by a beast. There was also a very small possibility that they had been saved by some strong cultivator. Otherwise, it was impossible for there to be no news. However, she also knew that this possibility was 1 in 10,000. It was extremely small. However, at this moment, she could only weave a lie to tell them. Saved by an old Taoist. Su Shi looked at Fengjiu in a daze. Then what happened? Fengjiu raised his head to look at her and said, at that time, we just happened to arrive. However, that old Taoist said that the two children were fated with him and wanted to take them away as his disciples. I didn't agree at first, but that old Taoist said that if he hadn't saved them, the 2 children would have already died. Therefore, he had to take them away. He only said that when the 2 children had finished their studies, he would let them return home. At this moment, Fingzhou felt that there was no flaw in the lie she had woven. If she didn't know what was going on, she might have believed it too. At this moment, she would never have thought that the white lie she had woven for them would be so close to the truth. When she saw the 2 children again in the future, even she felt that everything was inconceivable. So it's like this. She muttered in response and revealed a relieved smile. As long as they're fine, as long as they're alive. Her mood had been up and down. In addition, she had been anxious and uneasy these days. Now that she could relax, she fainted. Sushi. Feng Sanyuan called out worriedly. Grandfather, don't worry. Grandmother's body can't bear the fatigue. Let her rest for a while and she will recover, Fingzhou said softly and called out to the outside. Ling Shuang, quickly bring grandfather and grandmother to rest. Yes. Ling Shuang responded and came in to help support Sushi. Feng Sanyuan looked at Fingzhou and sighed. Grandfather has something to ask you later. Hearing this, Fingzhou's eyes flashed and he nodded. Okay. After they left, Fingzhou sat down and couldn't help but exhale softly. The joy and excitement of seeing his grandfather and the others return safely was diluted when he thought of little Feng Yi and Yang Yang. He felt a little sad and helpless. Were you the one who saved my grandfather and the others? Fingzhou looked at Murong Yishuan and asked. Hearing this, Murong Yishian, who was drinking tea, smiled faintly and looked up at her. How did you know? Old Master Feng and the others didn't have time to tell her. Moreover, judging from their expressions, they probably didn't receive the news he sent some time ago. At that time, the palace that was burned down was the palace that you went to. Now, you are here again. Furthermore, my grandfather and the others have returned safely. If it wasn't you who saved them, who else could it be? It was just a coincidence. Murong Yishian looked at her dazzling red clothes and said. At that time, I just wanted to go back and take a look. I didn't expect to encounter this. However, my abilities were limited and I could only save them secretly. Fengzhou stood up and walked in front of him. No matter what, I have to thank you for saving them. She bowed to him. Thank you. If there is anything you need my help with in the future, as long as I can do it, I will not refuse. Chapter 1759. Murong Yishian glanced at Xianyuan Mose, then smiled at Fingzhou. He nodded and replied, all right, if I need your help in the future, I'll look for you. Where is Master Murong now? Xianyuan Mose asked, his deep black eyes falling on him. Hearing this, Fingzhou's gaze also fell on Murong Yishian. There's been no news of you these past few years, where have you been? Seeing that his strength and cultivation had increased by a lot, it seemed that after he left, he had also had a fortuitous encounter. I'm now in a sect in the upper continent. He smiled and said slowly, after I met my master by accident, I left with him. These past few years, I've been in the upper continent and rarely come here. After chatting with him for a while, Fingzhou said to him, you must be tired from the journey. I'll have someone take you to rest. All right. He replied and stood up. Fingzhou looked outside and saw Lenghua standing outside the door. He called out, Lenghua, take Master Murong to the back hall to rest. Yes. Lenghua replied and walked in. He gestured to Murong Yishian, Master Murong, please. After Murong Yishian left, Fingzhou looked at Xianyuan Mose. I have to tell Luo Yu and the others, so that grandfather and grandmother don't know the truth. Xianyuan Mose took her hand and sat down beside her, saying, I've already asked Hui Lang and Lenghua to tell them. However, paper can't wrap fire. How long do you plan to hide it from them? Fingzhou was silent for a long time, then said, I'm worried that if I tell them, they won't be able to take it. also know that I can't hide it for long, but now really isn't the best time to tell them. Then take it slow. He held her hand tightly. Don't blame yourself too much. This isn't your fault. Fingzhou sighed softly. Originally, I was very happy to see grandfather and the others come back alive. However, when I think of little Feng Yi, I feel upset. Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything and quietly accompanied her. After a while, he accompanied her to the Phoenix Guards to explain the situation to them. He wanted to get some information so that they wouldn't notice if something went wrong when they asked. After explaining, he remembered what her grandfather had said earlier. Fengzhou couldn't help but stop and looked at Xianyuan Mose beside him. Grandfather said that he had something to ask me. Do you think, could it be? It doesn't matter. If he asks, you tell him the truth. Said Mose, he should be able to bear it. Don, I don't think that this matter can at him. Is. You mean that he's noticed? Xianyuan Mose nodded. He should have his suspicions. When you were talking earlier, your attention was all on your grandmother, so you didn't notice the change in your grandfather's expression. I'm guessing that he should have guessed something. Hearing this, Fengzhou fell silent. It turned out that her grandfather had already guessed it. I'll go with you. He hugged her and walked to the back of the hall. When they arrived at the back of the hall, they saw Feng Sanyuan standing with his hands behind his back, looking at the sky with a sorrowful expression. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other, and Fengzhou called out. Grandfather. Feng Sanyuan came back to his senses and looked at the two of them. You're here. Sit. He gestured for them to sit. Chapter 1760. Feng Sanyuan glanced at the room behind him, took a deep breath, and said, So she hasn't woken up yet. Little Feng, tell Grandpa honestly, what happened to Feng Yi? Hearing this, Fengzhou was silent for a moment. She looked at her grandfather in front of her for a long time, then said, Grandpa, what I said before was true, but I made up the part about them being in danger. She looked at him sitting at the table. After hearing her words, his body trembled slightly, as if he was trying his best to suppress it. She said, Grandpa, although we didn't see Feng Yi and Yang when we arrived, it doesn't mean that they were in danger. It's very possible that they were really saved. You don't need to say any more, I know. He waved his hand, unable to bear to listen to her anymore. Grandpa, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. She lowered her head, feeling very guilty. Perhaps if it weren't for her, they wouldn't have encountered this kind of life and death separation. No, Grandpa knows, it's not your fault. He sighed, this is all fate, perhaps this child is just not fated to be with us. Thinking back to when she was just born, she also went through a near-death experience. Who would have thought that after only 3 years, she would encounter this kind of thing again? Feng Sanyuan stood up, unable to hide his sorrow as he walked back. Hide this from your grandmother. If you tell her, she definitely won't be able to bear it. Fengzhou looked up and only withdrew her gaze when he entered the room. She didn't know what to say. I'll walk with you. Knowing that she was in low spirits, Xianyuan Mose took her hand and led her out. On the other side of the palace, Missouri-chan couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that Fengzhou's grandpa and grandmother had returned safely. The two of them were actually still alive. His master had said that she would experience the tribulation of being separated by life and death. She would experience the pain of having her family destroyed. She would lose everything and be left alone. However, although what she had experienced during this period of time was as his master had said, he faintly felt that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Although Master said that she had already passed the tribulation, it was one thing if old Master Feng and the others hadn't returned safely, but now that they had returned safely, he felt that perhaps this tribulation had other mysteries. Thinking of this, a serious expression appeared on his face. It wasn't that he doubted his master's purple star divination, but based on his intuition, he felt that things weren't that simple. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a black turtle shell from his space ring and put a few copper coins inside. Holding the shell, in his hand, a trace of hesitation. But Master had told him that divination and the star divination was originally from the same family, but Master had told him that divination and the star divination were from the same family. To prying into the heavens, was also prying into the mysteries of the heavens, and the star, Because once it was shown to others, there would definitely be many people who would come to ask for divination, and if the divination continued for a long time, it would only harm the diviner. Therefore, Master had told him that he couldn't use it before the age of 30. Although he was already very familiar with divination, he had always obeyed his master's orders and didn't divine himself. But now, he had an impulse to investigate. Chapter 1761. However, at this moment, his fairy-like face gradually turned pale. Large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead and his breathing became unstable. He forced himself to hold on until he stretched out a hand and poured out a few copper coins from the black tortoise shell. When they landed on the table, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Pfft! His body trembled violently and he almost fell over. He supported himself on the table with both hands and stabilized himself. When he saw the copper coins stained with blood on the table, he couldn't help but tremble. His eyes widened in disbelief. When the sky darkened, Ling Shuang and Leng Hua invited everyone to the main hall in front. Tonight, because of the arrival of Old Master Feng and the others, Xianyuan Mo set up a banquet and invited everyone to join in the fun. Su Shi, who had fainted, woke up after taking a pill. Her body gradually recovered. In addition, Feng Zhou assured her that Xiao Yi and the others were safe and sound. She no longer had any worries and relaxed. Her body and mind were in good spirits. This was Feng Sanyuan's first time here. Especially after hearing about Xianyuan Mo's father, he wanted to take this opportunity to express his condolences. Therefore, the Emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom, who hadn't appeared in public for a long time, would also appear at tonight's banquet. When Guan Shilin and the others found out that Old Master Feng and the others had returned safely, they were filled with joy. Because of Feng Zhou's instructions, they didn't mention anything about Xiao Fengyi. What surprised Guan Shilin was that he actually saw Murong Yixian again here. Speaking of which, it was really a strange feeling to see Murong Yixian again after so many years. When Feng Zhou saw that almost everyone had arrived except for the Emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom, he scanned the surroundings and didn't see Mo Qin. He then asked Xianyuan Mo's, "Where's Mo Qin? Have you seen him?" Leng Hua went to invite him. "He probably hasn't arrived yet." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he looked at the people seated below. Other than Murong Yixian, there was also Mo Qin. Although they had all hidden their thoughts, he knew that it was impossible for them not to remember how outstanding Feng Zhou was. Especially since Mo Qin had specially come and intended to stay by Feng Zhou's side and not leave. Every time he thought of this, his heart would ache. His woman was too outstanding. She was too eye-catching. "Master, I'll go take a look again." As Leng Hua was about to leave, he saw a white figure walk in. He said to Feng Zhou, "Master, Mo Qin is here." Feng Zhou looked outside and saw that the white-robed Mo Qin's face was somewhat pale. He couldn't help but be startled and thought to himself, why does he look so pale? Could it be that he's not feeling well? Murong Yixian, who was seated below, followed Feng Zhou's gaze. His gaze fell on Mo Qin and he quietly sized him up. This person was Elder Tianji's disciple, Mo Qin. "I'm sorry for being late." Mo Qin walked in front of Xianyuan Mo's and Feng Zhou. He nodded slightly and smiled apologetically. "It's okay," Feng Zhou said. He looked at Mo Qin's pale face and asked, "Are you not feeling well?" Why do you look so pale? Hearing this, Emochan smiled and shook his head. I'm fine. As he spoke, he turned his gaze and looked at Murong Yixian and Feng Sanyuan. Chapter 1762. Emochan greets Senior Feng and Madame Feng. Emochan cupped his hands and bowed to the two of them. Young Master Emochan, there's no need to be so courteous. Feng Sanyuan hurriedly stood up to support him. My granddaughter has been taken care of by you, my friends. Friends should help each other. Emochan smiled and looked at Murong Yixian. Young Master Murong, it's an honor to meet you. I didn't expect to see young Master Emochan here today. It's true that seeing you in person is better than hearing about you. You really are like an immortal. Murong Yixian also stood up and cupped his hands in greeting. Hearing this, Emochan smiled. Young Master Murong, you flatter me. The monarch has arrived. A guard announced. Everyone turned to look and saw the monarch of Xianyuan, who was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a slightly aged appearance, walking out with the support of two guards. Everyone stood up and bowed to him. Greetings, monarch of Xianyuan. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Sit, sit. The monarch of Xianyuan gestured for everyone to sit. Only then did he sit down in the main seat and look at Feng Sanyuan and his wife. These two must be Xiao Jiu's grandparents. Seeing how young the two of them were, he could not help but sigh in his heart. Feng Sanyuan was already close to 100 years old, but because of his strength and cultivation, he still had a youthful appearance. If his cultivation had not been crippled, he would not have such an old appearance. That's right. Feng Sanyuan nodded. He looked at him and asked with concern, Monarch, are you feeling better? Much better. Fortunately, Xiao Jiu is here. Otherwise. He shook his head and smiled. He looked at Feng Jiu with gratitude. If it weren't for her, he would be a dead man now. How would he have the chance to reconstruct his inner core and return to the path of cultivation? Monarch, don't worry. Xiao Jiu's medical skills and alchemy are top-notch. With her here, you will recover to how you were before. Feng Sanyuan comforted him. Although they had experienced life and death, they had not been crippled like the monarch. If their cultivation had been crippled, with their age, they would not have been able to hold on until little Feng came to save them. Yes, I know. I believe her. The Emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom smiled and nodded. He looked at the crowd and said, Tonight, we celebrate the safe return of old Master Feng and his wife. Let's eat and drink to our heart's content. There's no need to care about etiquette. Thus, he instructed the maidservants to pour wine for everyone. As everyone toasted each other, the atmosphere suddenly became lively. The Xianyuan monarch did not stay for long because of his health. He only accompanied everyone to drink a few cups of wine before leaving first. This was because Feng Jiu and Xianyuan Mose had already given him the pill to restore his inner core. He would rest well tonight. He would take the pill tomorrow and go into seclusion to adjust his breathing. That night, everyone drank to their heart's content. Only the old Master Feng found it difficult to be cheerful. After all, every time he thought about his youngest son, Feng Yi, and Yang Yang, his heart was filled with grief. However, to prevent Sushi from worrying, he could only bury this grief deep in his heart. That night, he drank until he was dead drunk. Chapter 1763. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, it can't be avoided. Let nature take its course. The next day, when Feng Jiu woke up, Xianyuan Mose was no longer by her side. After thinking for a bit, she remembered that he seemed to have said last night that he was going to protect his imperial father. She rubbed her eyebrows and called out, Ling Shuang. The Ling Shuang outside heard and walked in, Master. Prepare water for me to take a bath. She got up and stretched her body. She wanted to take a bath to clear her head and wash away the smell of alcohol on her body. When she came back last night, she immediately fell asleep. After sniffing carefully, there was still the smell of alcohol on her body. Yes. The Ling Shuang responded and turned to go out to prepare. After an hour, Fengjiu walked out of the palace. When she passed by the fake mountain, she saw Murong Yixian sitting in the pavilion. Her footsteps paused, walked up and casually sat down at the table. Are you used to living here? Murong Yixian looked at her sitting across the table. Seeing her picturesque appearance, the confidence and evil charm emitted from between her brows was so enchanting. His heart was slightly moved and he looked away. I've always been a light sleeper. Whether I'm used to it or not, I can't sleep deeply. Seeing Fengjiu sit here, the Ling Shuang behind her ordered the passing servant girls to bring tea and pastries. Looking at your appearance, you should be doing well these past few years. Fengjiu said as she lifted the teapot and poured 2 cups of tea. Hearing this, Murong Yixian looked at her and asked, what about you? Have you been well these past few years? Isn't it still the same? There's always trouble wherever I go. Fengjiu laughed at herself. As long as it's a place where I'm at, there's always a lot of trouble. Trouble is also a kind of experience. It just depends on how you look at it. Murong Yixian said slowly. Looking at her, his eyes flashed. There's something you might not know. Oh. What's the matter? Fengjiu took a sip of tea and asked. The news of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets testing the Phoenix Star has already spread. Even some of the sects and factions of the upper continents have begun to secretly move. Some want to eliminate you, some want to protect you, and some want to watch from the sidelines. He looked at her as she spoke. When he saw that she had lowered her gaze and her expression was normal, he couldn't help but smile. It seems that you're not worried. When Fengjiu heard this, he raised his eyebrows and looked at him with a faint smile. You knew that Feng Xing was talking about me. In the entire world, I think you're the only one. He said slowly and looked at her deeply. Moreover, didn't you say the same thing to me back then? Connecting the dots, it's not hard to guess that it was you. After he mentioned it, Fengjiu recalled the words she had said to him back then and couldn't help but smile. There are so many outstanding people in this world. Perhaps the Phoenix Star is someone else. At the very least, I don't really believe in this. Because even if she wanted to become strong, she didn't have the ambition to rule the world. Murong Yixian's deep eyes fell on her beautiful and enchanting face. In an instant, he couldn't help but say, there are so many outstanding people in this world, but none of them can compare to you. When he spoke, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. He shook his head and looked at the slightly startled her. I'm speaking the truth. In my heart, no one can compare to you. Chapter 1764. Murong Yixian was slightly stunned, then he laughed out loud. I know, I'll be more careful in the future. His eyes were filled with amusement as he looked at her and asked, are you two still not going to get married? He felt a little strange. The two of them had known each other for several years, so why hadn't Xianyuanmo's married her yet? His sweetheart was so outstanding, wasn't he afraid that someone would remember her? We were originally prepared, but too many things have happened in the past year, and we were caught off guard, so this matter has been delayed. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. However, in our opinion, marriage is just a ceremony, so there's no need to rush. The two of them chatted in the pavilion for a while. Fengjiu saw that it was getting late, so she stood up. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't chat anymore. If you feel bored, you can have someone take you around the palace. Go do your things. Murong Yixian nodded and watched her turn to leave. After a long while, he retracted his gaze and tasted his tea. Fengjiu originally planned to go to the palace to see the Emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom, but halfway there, she saw Xianyuanmo's walking back. Seeing him, she walked up to him in surprise. Why are you here? There's no need to go over, he's already gone into seclusion. As Xianyuanmo spoke, he held her hand and walked forward. I'm guarding him, and he's already taken the pill. Now, we just have to wait for him to come out of seclusion. I originally wanted to go over and take a look, but since he's gone into seclusion, then forget it. She held his hand instead, and the two of them walked slowly. Behind them, Ling Shuang and Ying Yi followed. I was thinking of having the Phoenix Guards send grandfather and the others back in 2 days. With my father and the others by his side, I can be more at ease. She said softly, thinking about what to do next. You don't plan to take the Phoenix Guards to the upper continent? Xianyuanmo asked. I don't want them to go over at the moment. She shook her head and said, although their strength has increased, I'm afraid they're still too weak to the people of the upper continents. I want them to stay and listen to my grandfather and father's orders. The Phoenix Guards can stay, but you can bring along the 8 Phoenix Guard captains. He looked at her and said, with their strength, they will be of some help to you. All right, I'll think about it. She replied. She was still unsure whether she should bring Luo Yu and the others along. Xianyuanmo paused for a moment, a dim light flashing across his eyes as he said, you don't have to bring that Imo-chan along. I feel that bringing him along will only bring trouble to yourself. He's too conspicuous. Furthermore, with his status, if he follows you around, there will definitely be people trying to find out who you are. Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled for a moment. She raised her eyes to look at him beside her. When she saw him saying these words with such a serious expression, she couldn't help but chuckle. You're right. He's indeed too conspicuous. If he follows me around, he'll definitely cause trouble. However, I've already promised him. Tell me, what should I do now? Xianyuanmo snorted softly, just find a reason to leave him behind. Is that okay? Fengjiu felt that this didn't seem too good. After all, he came from afar. If she did this, wouldn't it be too rude?